Nolan Ryan owns records that nobody else in baseball will ever touch. 5,714 strikeouts, 7 no-hitters, a fastball clocked at 100 miles an hour. He pitched for 27 seasons, longer than almost anyone who ever lived, and he was still throwing in the mid-90s at 46 years old. By every measure of raw talent, he was the most overpowering pitcher the game has ever seen. And yet, in 27 years, he never won a single Cy Young Award. Not once was he voted the best pitcher in his own league for even one season. Bob Gibson won 2. Tom Seaver and Jim Palmer each won 3. Steve Carlton won 4. Ryan won 0. The man with the most strikeouts in history was never officially the best. So which is it? Was Nolan Ryan robbed, or did the voters see something the record book missed? Here's the case against him. For all the strikeouts, his record was 324 wins and 292 losses. A .526 winning percentage is good, but not great. Critics called it mediocrity with a scorching fastball. He walked 2,795 batters, more than any pitcher who ever lived. And in 27 years, his teams never won a championship. Not in Anaheim, not in Houston, not in Texas. The knock was simple. If you can't consistently find the strike zone and your teams never win championships, are you really the best pitcher in baseball? But here's the other side. Those 5,714 strikeouts are 839 more than the next man on the list. His 7 no-hitters are 3 more than anyone in history. And in an era of strict pitch counts, that record will stand forever. Hitters weren't just beaten by him. They were afraid of him in a way they never were of Gibson or Koufax. And he was doing all of it at the age of 46. That isn't a bookkeeper padding his numbers. That is domination that lasted longer than anyone else's. So we're going to settle it going through his career in order, every team and every no-hitter, and compare the greatest pitchers of 1965 to 1985 along the way. And we'll answer the one question at the center of it all. Was Ryan robbed of a Cy Young? The argument comes down to 4 seasons where he may have been the best pitcher alive and still went home empty-handed. 1973, 1977, 1981, 1987. But to understand how it ended, you have to go back to where it started. 1968, the New York Mets, and a 100-mile-an-hour fastball that no coach in baseball knew what to do with. Nolan Ryan was the wild kid from Alvin, Texas. He was selected in the 12th round of the 1965 MLB draft, number 226th overall. Basically, he was an afterthought. He never sold the scouts. Even with absurd strikeout numbers and a quick climb through the minors, the wild and risky label stuck, and the doubts about his control never left. He was the kid with the electric arm he couldn't control. The hitters truly feared his 100-mile-an-hour heat and the curve he just couldn't land. But he ended his rookie season with 133 strikeouts and 75 walks. The flaw and the gift intertwined from the first year. Then 1969, the Miracle Mets reached the World Series. In Game 3, Mets versus Orioles, the Mets were in front. Starter Gary Gentry got 2 outs in the 7th, then walked the bases loaded. They called in the kid, the 22-year-old Nolan Ryan, straight into a bases-loaded jam with the series on the line. Paul Blair scorched a liner to right center, and Tommy Agee made one of the greatest catches in series history to end the inning. Ryan finished the 8th and the 9th, 2 1/3 innings, and earned the save. The Mets won Game 3 and took the series in 5. Ryan was a champion in just his 2nd season.
Bases loaded here at Shea, 2 away in the 7th, and the Mets called to the bullpen for a 22-year-old kid named Nolan Ryan. The tying runs aboard. Baltimore's Paul Blair steps in. Ryan delivers, and Blair drives one deep to right center. Back goes Agee. Agee, he dives, and he makes the catch. What a play by Tommy Agee. The young fireballer is out of it, and Ryan will go on to slam the door. 2 1/3 innings, and nail down the save. These Miracle Mets are 1 win away from the World Championship.
Here's the rub. It was the only World Series appearance of his entire career. He got his ring as a reliever on the back of a championship team, not as the ace leading one, and he'd never make it back. 2 years later, the Mets essentially gave up on him. In December of 1971, they shipped him to Anaheim. The lopsided trade for the Mets immediately paid off for the Angels. The kid finally started to get his rhythm and was dominant almost overnight. 1972 was the breakout year. 19 wins, a 2.28 ERA, and 329 strikeouts, which led the American League, the first of 11 times he would do it. He led in shutouts too, with 9. Control issues continued to plague him as he issued a league-leading 157 walks. He was at the same time putting together one of the best seasons of his career. Ryan became more dominant in 1973. Over a 3-year span, he threw 4 no-hitters. 2 came in 1973, another in 1974. In 1975, he tied Sandy Koufax's all-time record of 4. His strikeouts continued to climb. In 1973, he struck out 383 batters, breaking Koufax's modern single-season record of 382. That 383 still stands as the modern record today.
Anaheim, with 3 straight fastballs past a pinch hitter in the 11th inning. California's Nolan Ryan last night rewrote the record book. His 383rd strikeout of the season broke the modern record of 382 set by the great Sandy Koufax in 1965. Ryan struck out 16 Twins on the night and needed every one of them. The record breaker coming in extra innings before the Angels won it in the bottom of the 11th for his 21st victory. At 26, the fireballer they call the Ryan Express has left the rest of baseball, wondering if 400 is next.
One of his most outstanding achievements was fanning 19 Red Sox in a single game, tying the American League record. Throughout the 1970s, 2 pitchers stood above everyone else in strikeouts. Nolan Ryan, dominating the American League, and Steve Carlton, his great rival in the National. Together they reigned as the premier strikeout artists of the era, and arguably of baseball history. Ryan and Carlton chased each other for a decade. Each year the competition was fierce over who would lead his league and eventually own the career record. It was so apparent that in 1973, Topps put the 2 of them side by side on a strikeout leaders card. Nobody piled up strikeouts like these 2, and Ryan was right at the front of it. Ryan continued his rampage, building up strikeout records, no-hitters, and the fastball that nobody could touch, the best arm in the game. After all of it, he never won a Cy Young Award, not one. Ryan subsequently moved on to the Houston Astros and then the Texas Rangers. The wildness never fully tamed, but the arm was just as potent. Still throwing in the mid-90s deep into his 40s, he proved he still had gas in the tank. On April 27, 1983, Nolan Ryan passed Walter Johnson to become the all-time strikeout king, breaking a 56-year-old record. He would finish at 5,714. Nobody else in history had even reached 5,000.
Montreal. For 56 years it belonged to Walter Johnson. Last night it belonged to Nolan Ryan. The Houston right-hander struck out Montreal's Brad Mills in the 8th inning for the 3,509th strikeout of his career, passing the big train to become the strikeout king of all baseball history. Johnson set his mark before there was a microphone to announce it. Ryan broke it at 36 with no sign of slowing and a decade still ahead of him. The man from Alvin, Texas, now stands alone, the most overpowering arm the game has ever measured.
He tossed 7 no-hitters, 3 more than anyone else. He was 44 years old when he threw his last, collecting 16 strikeouts against the best-hitting team in baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays. And the feistiness was not just in the arm.
9th inning here in Arlington, and history is 1 out away. Nolan Ryan, 44 years old, has not given up a hit all night. 2 down, 15 strikeouts already, and the Blue Jays have got nothing. Alomar steps in. Ryan checks the sign, deals, strike 1. 2-2 now, the whole ballpark on its feet. Ryan winds up, and the pitch swung on and missed. He's done it. Strikeout 16, no-hitter number 7 at 44 years old. Nolan Ryan has done it again. Just listen to this crowd.
At 46, with the Texas Rangers, Robin Ventura charged the mound after Ryan hit him in an at-bat. Ryan grabbed him in a headlock and pummeled him, and the image became legendary, celebrated for years on T-shirts, posters, and prints. For all his accolades and greatness, the win column tells a colder story. His .526 winning percentage was dead last among the great pitchers of his era. Even 324 wins came paired with 292 losses. The most dominant arm of his generation should have been chasing 400 wins. The walks ran his pitch counts up, managers pulled him early, and his teams couldn't finish the job. Tough to swallow given the object of the game is to win. At the start, I asked one question. Was Ryan robbed of a Cy Young? To answer it, you have to see the one number running underneath everything you just watched. The strikeouts, the no-hitters, the fastball nobody could hit. Underneath all of it, he walked 2,795 batters, the most in Major League history, and 50% more than any other pitcher who ever lived. That same wildness should have cost him nothing but a few extra base runners. Instead, it cost him the one prize that says you are the best. 4 times Ryan had a real case for the Cy Young. 4 times they handed it to someone else. In 1973, 383 strikeouts, still the modern-day record with a 2.87 ERA and 2 no-hitters. He finished second, lost to Jim Palmer, who went 22-9 on a 97-win team, while Ryan's Angels went 79-83. They gave it to the win-loss record, not the pitcher. The walks gave them the excuse. Ryan was the wild one, the thrower, not a winner. His arm was the best in baseball, and they still didn't trust it. In 1977, he led the league with 341 strikeouts and finished third, beaten by a relief pitcher, Sparky Lyle, a man who never started a single game. In 1981, the best ERA in all of baseball, 1.69, and he finished fourth, beaten by a rookie, Fernando Valenzuela of the Los Angeles Dodgers. 1987, at 40 years old, he led the entire National League in both ERA and strikeouts, and still finished with a losing record, 8-16. This time it wasn't the walks. His team's bats went cold, and the wins just never came. He finished fifth in the voting. But the hardest loss Ryan ever took was the one he gave away. In the 1980 playoffs, he was 5 outs from leading his Astros to the World Series, his first as the ace. With a 5-2 lead, the wildness returned at the worst possible moment. A bases-loaded walk to Pete Rose, forced in a run, cracked the door.
5 outs. That's all that stands between the Houston Astros and the first pennant in this franchise's history. Nolan Ryan on the mound, a 5-2 lead. Boa leads off with a single. Now Boone chops one back at the mound. It ticks off Ryan's glove. Everybody's safe. And here comes Gross with a bunt. He beats it out. The bases are loaded and nobody is out. The dome has gone quiet. Pete Rose digs in. Ryan from the stretch. And that's ball 4. A run forced home, 5-3. And here comes the manager. He's taken the ball from Nolan Ryan. You can feel it slipping.
And the Philadelphia Phillies walked through it on their way to a championship. Ryan called it the biggest loss of his career. So that same wildness, those 2,795 walks, cost him, at most, 4 Cy Youngs and very likely a World Series ring. And it built the rest. 5,714 strikeouts, 7 no-hitters, a bronze bust in Cooperstown. The writers who denied him the trophies are the same writers who voted him into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot, and that's the only score that matters. We both watched him pitch. So you tell me, was his wildness a fatal flaw, or the very reason he became a legend? Did he deserve the ultimate pitching award? Over who? Here's my vote. Twice the writers got it flat wrong. In 1977, Ryan won 19 games and struck out 341, and they handed the award to a relief pitcher. In 1981, with 11 wins in a strike-shortened season and a 1.69 ERA, they gave it to a rookie named Fernando Valenzuela, who won 13. Those 2 years, Ryan had the strongest case of all. Nolan Ryan struck out more batters than anyone over 27 seasons, and in all that time, he never led his team to a championship. The next man in the vault is the other side of greatness, the pitcher every manager wanted on the mound, when a whole season came down to a single afternoon. The Bulldog, the GOAT, the man who didn't just win, he refused to lose when it mattered most. 3 legends have a claim to that title. Only one can be the greatest big-game ace the Good Times era ever produced. And don't forget the Good Times Vault newsletter. It drops the first of every month over on Substack.